Welcome to Shameless Leadership. I'm your host, Sarah Dean. This show is for women leaders who are committed to advancing both their own leadership and the leadership of those around them. In each episode, I offer practical strategies and inspiring stories to help you become a more confident, compassionate, and curious leader. The truth is, you were born to lead. So let's start now, together. Hello, Shameless Leaders. I'm excited to dig in with you today because we're going to be talking about growth mindset in tough times. And I don't know anyone who isn't enduring something challenging right now. I actually was just on a call last night. We kicked off our aligned leadership incubator, and I was on a call last night asking all the women leaders in our cohort kind of just to identify, like, where are you at and how are you feeling? And no one was like, oh, I feel great. Everything's great. And so there's just a sense of heaviness, a sense of challenge, a sense of overwhelm. And when we feel this way, it can be really hard to tap into growth mindset. It can feel like it can feel easier to find things that are working against us sometimes than things that are working for us. And that's where we can really get in our own way and we can get really stuck. In the work that I've been doing with women leaders, in the work that I've been doing in empowering women, and when I did years of work empowering moms inside the Shameless Mom Academy, the thing that I always had to help folks come back to was mindset and the way that we talk to ourselves, the conversations we have with ourselves in our own heads, because that really is what can make or break a moment, a day, a week, a month, a year when things are really tough. And I also want to acknowledge that it can be a lot to carry to hold this kind of sole responsibility for your mindset and for your thoughts and for your thinking when you are in a time or a season when things feel challenging in a chronic way. And so many people are experiencing that right now. And I don't want to minimize that at all. So how can we acknowledge that things are hard, they've been hard, they're going to keep being hard, and still feel like we have hope and that we believe that things can get better and that we believe that there's possibility and potential? Because that's how we can keep going. That's how we get to, get ourselves out of bed every day, is by really being able to tap into this idea that even if things are hard right now, it's not always going to feel like this. And even if things are hard right now, it doesn't mean I can't still find joy. I can't still laugh. I can't still do great things. I can't still be part of something that matters or something that counts. And I can't still find purpose and meaning in the work that I'm doing within my relationships and in the different ways that I have the opportunity to show up every single day. So today I want to talk about 5 ways, actually 6 ways. It was going to be 5, and then I decided to throw in a 6. So it's going to be 6 ways to improve your growth mindset in tough times. 6 things that you can do to challenge yourself, to challenge your mindset in a way that I hope feels really good, and in a way that I hope feels like you're giving yourself back a sense of power. You're giving yourself permission to keep going. You're giving yourself permission to stay positive. That doesn't mean that you're discounting the things that are hard. It doesn't mean that you're bypassing them or ignoring them. It just means that you are giving yourself a sense of power sometimes when you are in a season that can feel powerless. So the first way you can improve I guess we should start with what is growth mindset. So growth mindset and fixed mindset. This is the work of Carol Dweck. She wrote an incredible book called Mindset that I believe everyone should read, regardless of your role, regardless of, your relationships in society. Everyone should read this book. It's just so impactful in terms of the different ways that you can train your head to take better care of you. And in her book, she talks about fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So fixed mindset is where we feel limits around things and we see limits. And so when things get really hard, we think, oh my gosh, it's really hard right now. And there's no options that aren't hard. We start to feel limited. We feel like potential is maybe slipping through our fingers. We feel like possibility is becoming less rather than becoming more. We feel constriction instead of expansion. And when we're in a fixed mindset, it's really hard to feel like we can make a great choice. It's really hard to feel like there's still good opportunities. It's hard to stay positive because the nature of a fixed mindset is very limited. And so options feel limited, resources feel limited, everything feels limited. And as we collect evidence that things are hard and this is limited over here and that's limited over there, we just feel more and more constriction. So things feel smaller and more limited. That sense becomes increasingly overwhelming, if not rather destabilizing or sometimes paralyzing, where we're like, we feel stuck and we can't move forward. With growth mindset, it's totally the opposite. So growth mindset is that we can recognize that things are hard, but we can still see potential. So growth mindset is where we are always able to find, see, or make kind of a crack into potential and possibility. So things can be really hard, but we're like, hey, I know things are really hard, but you know what? I also know that I'm smart and I'm resourceful and I'm scrappy and I can figure things out. Growth mindset is when, you're in a sports game and it's down to the wire, and growth mindset is like, we can do anything in this moment. Fixed mindset is in that same sports game. You're down to the wire and you're like, the other team's probably going to win. And you just like, all you see is, yeah, it's probably not going to work out for us. Growth mindset is expansive. Like anything is possible. We can make anything happen. We can figure things out. So when we're in hard times, hard seasons, having a hard day, being able to lean into and tap into growth mindset is going to be a huge tool that we can use in order to keep going. In order to restore hope, in order to be able to navigate what can seem sometimes impossible and sometimes impossible circumstances in which we might feel like we don't have good options. Growth mindset helps us find options when it maybe otherwise has felt like there are no options. So with that in mind, how can we improve our growth mindset so that when we're in tough times, when we're in that place where just kind of collectively, universally, things are feeling hard and constricting and like there's no end in sight, how can we individually still give ourselves permission to feel a sense of power and a sense of possibility and potential so that we can keep going, so that we can maintain motivation, so that we can build momentum and stay in momentum in order to get closer to the things that we want in a situation or in a season? So the first thing that you can do, number one, keep your receipts and constantly refer to them. So I actually just interviewed Stephanie Chung, we talked a lot about receipts in this conversation. That episode won't come out for a while, but in this conversation with Stephanie, we talked about keeping receipts, and I call it collecting evidence. She calls it keeping receipts, but it's this idea that you have to be able to look back at where you've been and hold on to that as proof of where you have the potential to go forward. So that past evidence is indicative of your future potential. So that's keeping those receipts. They're in your back pocket. You are constantly referring them. You're constantly pulling them out and being like, yep, I did this on that date and I did this on that date and I got through this hard season and I did that hard thing and I didn't think I could ever do that thing and I did it. We're constantly referring to those things. We're constantly using that to remind ourselves, I can do hard things. I can recover in sticky moments. I can get through things even when I think I can't get through things. I can be scrappy and resourceful even when it feels like I've run out of possibilities. When we are able to collect that past evidence and be able to refer to it really regularly or look back at those receipts really regularly, then we're able to maintain a sense of power in hard times. Now, it's really easy to collect the wrong evidence or the wrong receipts in a tough season. It's easy to start keeping track, and I find myself guilty of this at times. It's easy to keep track of all the things that are going wrong. And you might even find this like in a rough day, and I know I have this a lot in like a rough day of parenting where you're like, oh my gosh, like 7 things went wrong before I even got my kid to school. Like this is just going to be a horrible day. I'm ready to throw in the towel and it's not even 8 a.m. So when we're keeping receipts and we're tracking this past evidence, we're doing the opposite of tracking what's hard. We're tracking what has worked in the past. We're tracking where we've won in the past. We're tracking where we've had that power and been able to leverage it. That's the opposite of keeping track of the hard things. It's easy to slip into, look at all the things that are going wrong. Look at all the things that are horrible right now. Sometimes it's important to acknowledge those hard things for sure, but we have to also keep collecting those receipts and that evidence as proof of our power moving forward. Number 2, the second thing to improve your growth mindset in tough times is to track your small wins. Oftentimes when we're in hard seasons, it feels like nothing's going right, or it feels like I can't get traction. It feels like I can't make anything happen. When we feel like that, if we don't have a small win at some point to motivate us to keep going, we're so much more likely to throw in the towel. So it becomes your responsibility as someone who's dedicated to maintaining and advancing your growth mindset to find those small wins every single day. So what's the one little thing that you can cling to and be like, that's the win for today. That's the thing that's going to motivate me to keep moving forward. I remember during COVID, it was really hard to find those small wins. There were so many days where it just felt like, oh my gosh, like I don't know how bad this is going to get and I don't know how long it's going to last. And that felt so scary and overwhelming. And I would have little moments where maybe it was something with a client on a call. Maybe it was something with my kid that was cute or funny. Maybe it was something with my dog. Maybe it was something that my husband and I were able to laugh at. But like that one little thing that just brought a smile to my face, that just made me feel like, okay, in this moment, I can take one more step. Those are the small wins that we're tracking. So when things feel big and hard and heavy, we have to be able to look at what is the one small thing that I can hold on to that will keep me moving forward. What's the one win? So maybe it's something, you had a great conversation with someone. Maybe it's that you finally sent off the email that you've been meaning to send for 3 weeks. Maybe it's that you got the bonus. Maybe it's that your kid won the baseball game. Maybe it's that your dog, was able to fetch the ball 3 times. Like it can be anything of any magnitude, but it needs to be something that when it happens, you recognize like that's the win for today. That's the thing. Because when we're tracking those small wins and we can recognize that we are a person who experiences wins on a regular basis, that keeps us going when it feels like so many things aren't working out for us. So tracking those small wins becomes really, really important. Whenever I'm in a season where I feel like things aren't working out for me, where I feel like things are more challenging than I want them to be, I return to more tracking of wins than any other time, because it's the thing that keeps me motivated. For me to be able to say, here's 3 things that worked for me today. Here's 3 things that worked for me this week. Here's, wins that maybe I wouldn't otherwise notice, but I'm intentionally noticing these things right now, because noticing that these things are working for me is going to be the motivation to keep looking forward in order to create more wins for myself in the long run. So this tracking of those small wins is really important. Maybe you get a cute little notebook and you track your small wins every day. Maybe this is something that you do at the dinner table with your family. Maybe it's, you have a Word document or Google Doc and you're tracking it somewhere where you can look digitally and refer back to it over time. But tracking those small wins can make a huge, huge difference in feeling like the world is working for me versus the world is working against me. The third thing that you can do to improve your growth mindset in tough times is to stay in motion. When things get really hard, it's so tempting to just sit down and be like, I'm done. Clearly, the universe just wants me to sit down. Clearly, the world's just telling me like, this is not your time. This is not your season. Just sit down, take a break. When we sit down and we internalize that things are not working for me, there's nothing else I can do, I can't keep going, that is where our energy stops. And then we become stuck and we become stagnant, and our energy and mindset become stuck and become stagnant. When you're going through a really hard season, you cannot afford to let yourself get stuck. You can't afford the cost of losing momentum. That inertia is critical in keeping you going. So movement, taking one little step every day, doing one little thing to work you closer to a goal or to bring joy or to get you in moving in whatever direction you want to be moving, is going to be essential in order to keep growing, in order to stay in that growth mindset. When we let ourselves, now this doesn't mean never rest. We're going to get to rest in a minute, so don't worry. It doesn't mean never rest, but it means never give up, never throw in the towel. Because as soon as we give up, we throw in the towel, we come to that screeching halt. And when we're at that screeching halt, the effort and energy that it takes to get started again, it's like this big, huge heave-ho, right? So if you imagine someone running a marathon, like as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, it doesn't matter how fast you're going, as long as you are moving. But if you stop, and if you've ever done a race of any kind, if you stop, the energy required to get going again can feel Herculean. So you want to keep going. You can go at a snail's pace. You can go really slow. The steps can be really small. They can be almost unnoticeable. But as soon as you stop and you throw in the towel and you let yourself decide that I'm no longer in the game, that is where that stagnation comes into play and it becomes exponentially harder to get moving again. So growth mindset requires that you stay in motion, that you keep moving forward, that you keep taking the next step. You might not know what the next right step is, but you just keep taking a step. And you trust that I'm going to take this step. I don't know if it's the right step, but I trust when I'm done taking this step, I will then have a chance to take another step. And I will decide what that step's going to be once I get there. I don't need to know 18 steps ahead. I just need to be able to take one step and then make another decision. I coach my clients on this all the time. I was actually just the other day talking with someone who was deciding between two choices in their work, and there was pros and cons to either choice. And we talked, kind of ad nauseum about which choice they should go with. And at one point I said, I want you to trust that whatever choice you make, that you're going to then be able to make great decisions based on the pros and cons that come out of that choice. When you don't have a perfect option, and we rarely have a perfect option, taking a step and trusting I can figure out the next step after this, that's the key. So rather than being so stuck that you don't take any action at all and you miss all opportunity, it's taking one step and acknowledging that the step never has to be perfect. The step is probably never going to be perfect, but you take the one step to stay in motion, and then you get the feedback from that one step. You see what happens, you listen, you learn, you figure some things out, and then you decide what the next step should be. The fourth way that you can improve your growth mindset during tough times is to lean on the right people. So when we have seasons that are really hard, depending on kind of where those challenges lie, some things might shift in terms of who we bring into our inner circle. Sometimes our inner circle can get significantly smaller. I know that when things were really challenging for me when my son was really teeny tiny, my inner circle was really made up of moms who were in the same space as me, who also had little babies, and we were all figuring it out together. And I didn't want to talk to people who had older kids who were just telling me like, enjoy the snuggles, it's so cute, it goes so fast, because it wasn't going fast for me. And yes, my kid was adorable, but like his cuteness was not outweighing how hard it was. I only wanted to be in a small circle of other moms who had babies who were like, this is so hard. This is so hard. How are we going to do it again tomorrow? Because that was validating to me. That helped me feel like, okay, someone else gets it. So in a work environment, maybe you're in a situation where you've been part of a layoff. Maybe you're in a situation where you're part of a new team. Finding people who understand what you're going through and leaning into that circle and the people that can hold you in that moment is going to be really, really helpful in terms of helping you get through that tough time. And sometimes that means the exclusion of other people who you might greatly value, who might be very important in your life, but they're not the people that you need to be around most right now. So that inner circle might intentionally get really small or be configured in a different way than it has been in the past. And there might be people that you would intentionally exclude from that inner circle or keep it a bit of an arm's length or create some space from, because they're just not the people that are the best people for you to be around right now in this season. That doesn't mean that you don't love them, that you don't adore them, that you don't respect them, that you don't have, a great ongoing relationship with them. But in hard times, leaning on the right people in order to keep going is going to be really important. When you do that, this helps you stay in motion. When you have the right support system around you, it's much easier to stay in motion. It's easier to identify those wins because those people who you've chosen to be around you are saying like, hey, I see you doing this thing. Way to go. Hey, it's really hard for me too. Like, let's problem solve. Let's collaborate. So the other steps become easier when you have the right people around you. So your growth mindset's going to automatically become more generative when you are really thoughtful about having the right people around you in those hard seasons, or excluding the right people from that inner circle in that hard season. The fifth thing I want you to do as you are working to improve your growth mindset in tough times is to notice your narratives. So notice how you're talking to yourself. Notice the self-limiting beliefs that come up. Notice how much you might say like nothing's working out or everything is really hard or it just keeps getting worse. And because like some of these things are kind of true right now, right? Like it does just keep getting worse and everything is really hard. So these things can be true, but they're not helpful narratives. So noticing what are the things that you're saying to yourself and maybe the things that you're saying out loud to other people in commiseration that are harming you more than they're helping you. Looking at some of those thoughts and some of those thought loops and asking yourself, is this helpful or harmful? This is something I say a lot to my mom who's gone through a big transition moving this year, and she'll kind of get stuck on certain narratives about things that she can't control in her new environment. And I'll have to say like, Mom, is that a helpful or harmful thought that you're letting yourself think over and over again? Because there's nothing that you can do to change this. There's nothing I can do to change this. You staying stuck on it, it feels like this is a narrative that's harming you. It's not helping you. And I think there's other things you could be focusing on. There's other stories you can be telling yourself, things you can be saying to yourself that would be really helpful in this moment. There's things that you can identify in this transition that are working in your favor. So let's focus on those things, those thoughts that are helpful versus fixating on some of the thoughts that are not helpful. So in your situation, thinking about what are the things I'm telling myself over and over again about this current scenario or the current world that we're living in that are helping me versus the things that are harming me. And if you notice, like I'm telling myself these horrible things, or I get on social media and I'm just doom scrolling and all I see, I'm just collecting evidence, like see how bad it is every day, then recognizing that this is facilitating a narrative that is harmful to you. You don't need to be on social media every day to be a responsible consumer of current events. I know that's a maybe obvious, but maybe not so obvious thing to say, that you can find out what's going on in the world with just a couple little snippets of news from other sources outside of social media. And you can save yourself a lot of brain power and a lot of grief, maybe, if you're someone who is collecting the wrong evidence. When you're collecting the wrong receipts, you're collecting the wrong evidence over time, those narratives in your head become less and less healthy, less and less helpful, and ultimately potentially very harmful in terms of being able to get you through the season. So recognizing what are the things I'm telling myself or exposing myself to that are creating stories in my head that are limiting my ability to be productive or purposeful or effective in this moment, or maybe even limiting my ability to show up in this moment and to be, a member of society in this moment. And then the sixth way, number six, the sixth way for you to improve your growth mindset in tough times is to rest. Now, this doesn't mean that you're stopping your being in motion, right? So we talked about staying in motion, number 3. Number 6 here, rest, doesn't mean sit down and give up. This is intentional rest. This is practicing self-compassion to recognize and say to yourself, I need to rest and participate in restorative activities if I'm going to make it through this marathon. If we don't give ourselves permission to rest, if we stay on the hamster wheel, if we stay in a vicious cycle, if we stay pushing in seasons that are relentlessly difficult, we will burn ourselves out. We will crash. We will get to the point where we can no longer stay in motion, and we have to then become stuck. And we have to then deal with that Herculean effort of how do we get going again? So this rest, self-compassion, giving yourself grace, letting yourself opt out of things, taking care of yourself, managing your health, managing your mental health, doing things that bring you joy, letting yourself take a nap sometimes, are going to be so important when it comes to making it to the end, making it through the long, hard thing. I just this last weekend was on a walk. My sister and brother-in-law are here in town, and we went for a walk, and they were all excited to see the cherry blossoms here in Seattle. It was a really gorgeous day, and we're walking along, and all of a sudden I see this house that has a little sharing library out in front of it. And I noticed in the sharing library, it's all puzzles. And I was so excited. I love puzzles. So I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a puzzle library. This is amazing. I said, I've heard about this on a local neighborhood Facebook group, but I didn't know where it was. And I've seen pictures of it, and I've meant to come look for it and look up the address, because I've seen the address has been listed before, and I've just never gotten around to it. So I open up the little door for this little puzzle sharing library. It's take a puzzle, leave a puzzle. There's probably 20 puzzles in there. And there's a little sign on the door that says, look on our front porch. If you want more puzzles, don't be shy, help yourself. So I look to the front porch, and they literally have bins and bins of puzzles. And they have this whole China hutch thing full of puzzles. I mean, probably another 100 puzzles are on their deck, on their porch. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, with my dog on a leash and my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, I'm like, we have to go look at the other puzzles. So we look through all the puzzles. We're all excited. And my sister-in-law loves puzzling as much as I do. So this guy comes out who lives in this house, and I'm like, oh, now I feel a little awkward. I'm on his porch rifling through the puzzles, and I'm like, hey, you said not to be shy. And he's like, oh no, he's like, help yourself. I'm so glad that you're here. And he's just out doing yard work, and so happy that people are going through all of his puzzles. So I got a couple of puzzles, came home. That evening, I opened up one of the puzzles and just started, organizing the pieces and putting together the outer edges, the frame of it. And I remembered, this is what settles my mind more than anything, sitting down and focusing on a puzzle, because it's so focused and it's so precise. And there's such a sense of accomplishment when you get two pieces that lock together. There's this finality to I did something that required 7 steps, and I did 7 steps in a row. And there's something very, very peaceful to me about that. And it feels very productive, and it feels like I have power over something. And when I feel like I can't control anything, to sit down and work on a puzzle, it is the most meditative thing for me. And I realized as I sat there for 30 minutes that I haven't taken enough breaks like that recently. I've been in school. I've had a lot going on with work, lots of family stuff. And so every moment is just filled with something that needs to be done, that's productive, that's on a to-do list, that has to get done in order for the world to keep spinning the next day. And to spend that 30 minutes just doing something inconsequential, but that felt productive and I could control it. Oh my gosh, it felt so good. So that's a form of rest, being able to recognize this is something that brings me joy, that lights me up, or that is a mental escape. And then giving yourself the space to do that. So I returned to the puzzle yesterday while I was eating lunch. I was like, I'm going to sit down here for 20 minutes and work on the puzzle again while I'm eating lunch. And again, so much joy. So thinking about what are the things that are restorative to you, that give you a brain break or a physical break, that allow you to maybe experience joy at the same time, but allow you to get some of that rest that you need in order to then take the next step where you need to stay in motion. So those are the 6 ways for you to improve your growth mindset in tough times. So keeping your receipts, constantly referring to them, tracking those small wins every day, staying in motion, leaning on the right people and excluding the right people, noticing your narratives in your head, and then rest and self-compassion. I hope this was helpful. Share this with other leaders who might need some support right now. I know that things are hard, but we are in it together. So please keep coming back here to feel the support that you need. Please keep leaning on the people who can help you in these moments, because we are going to get through it, even on the days it doesn't feel like it. And you are never alone, even on the days when it feels like you are. So please keep coming back here, because as we are doing this work, as we keep showing up on these hard days and these impossibly hard seasons, I'm in this with you always. And I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to be back next week. Thank you for allowing me to spend time in your ear today. If you liked this episode, be sure to subscribe to this channel. To learn more about my speaking, training, and coaching services, visit sarahdean.com. That's SARADEAN. I would also love for you to connect with me on LinkedIn at sarahdean.com/LinkedIn or on Instagram at sarahdeanspeaks. I love hearing from my listeners. Thank you for showing up for yourself today. I see you, I hear you, and I'm holding space for you today and every single day.